Hello, Alexandra.
Hi, it's nice to
Uh,
see you.
can you introduce yourself a little bit?
Okay, my name is Alexandra Knight. I'm 22. I'm a green entrepreneur trying to create a climate change advert for global cinemas. I've recently just taken my project global, and I am a fiction writer in my spare time. And my chosen career is I'm planning in sustainability.
Fantastic. Yes, today we want to talk about COVID, coronavirus, and climate. Are they linking together? Are there any connections? And has the lockdown brought about some connections between climate change and the pandemic? What would you say?
I would definitely say that it has brought about a change attitude wise. I do believe that people wanted to change long before this, but life was just so incredibly fast before. But now, because people have actually been locked down in the whole, their entire country's been locked down, they've had localized lockdowns, they can actually now slow down enough to plan out what they would like to do to make themselves more sustainable.
So you're saying life has slowed down and
Yeah,
that gives an opportunity to rethink the whole situation.
I think so. Yeah, it gives you food for thought, doesn't it? A lot of people have been alone. They have been working in their offices alone. Some people just don't have other people either. But it does give you time, doesn't it? This sort of singularity that you have, and sometimes you just realize, oh, do you know something that's been on my mind? This thought has been on my mind for months. I mean, with me, for instance, because I didn't have the time, I've now found the time to buy my own compost bin, which I've been planning to do for months, and I'm actually really just enjoying having the bin and turning over all the compost. It's just lovely and tactile.
That's fantastic. I do have a compost bin, not on the best place, too close to my entrance door or back
Mm-hmm.
door, because there are flies in the summer, but I have
Yeah.
fantastic compost. There are loads of worms in. I brought some
Yeah.
worms in and they have multiplied. And I mean, that compost is really, really good. So that's one way. What is your
Yeah.
experience in the lockdown altogether? What have you been doing?
Lockdown has actually been it's been quite an experience for me, because when I was a child, I'm sure like many people, I used to wonder, well, what would happen if we had some kind of global problem? And I did used to think about that, but I could never see myself in that. And yet here, all of us are together in this, and it has left me a lot of time to think, and it's left me a lot of time to think about myself. And I've had some quite shocking revelations about myself, and they were quite scary, if I'm honest. I mean, I realised, and this really, it's making me quite nervous as I speak, but I realised how much I used to change myself for other people, and I'm completely horrified that I used to do that. Never again. Never. And I tell you, I found myself buried under a mound of things that I never had any interest in. I never wanted to dress one way. I never wanted to do things one way. And now I found myself. And I just cannot tell you what that means to me. It's amazing.
Well, if you have such an experience, there must be millions of other people who have a similar experience.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that, because like I say, with the eco aspect, we've all been allowed to have more of a chance with, being sustainable. And I think other people have had a chance to find themselves now. Definitely.
I mean, would you say after this experience life will never be the same again.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%.
Well, finding oneself, certainly that is a very, very important aspect.
Mm-hmm.
What about if we think of the carbon dent? It was only a little dent during lockdown, and by now it has already gone up again. Does that, I mean, it shows it is possible to curb the carbon emission if there's an emergency, if there's a will to do it. What do you think on this point?
I definitely agree on the fact that we can do it if we have to, but I think the thing is the economy is built so much around cars, fossil fuel transportation, that it's quite difficult to actually stop it unless people have enough will. I think definitely with the pandemic, we've had will to kind of stay away from each other, but when it comes back to going back and being tactile with people, that's going to be really hard because you can't get everywhere by walking, by bicycle. I mean, we can make the choice to go half and half and go somewhere halfway by bicycle, which actually I managed to be able to do. I managed to be able to go to Oxford half on the bus and halfway on a bicycle, which was quite an achievement because I'd never tried anything like that before, but I did manage it and I was very happy with the result.
I try to avoid public transport. I have actually only gone once. It was unavoidable, but otherwise, yes, I do use a car, but most of the time I'm actually at home and nearby shops and whatever I walk. So travel has been coming down a lot. What about you?
I've been very localised. The only one time I took public transport was to go to Oxford, and I've actually got very much more communal throughout all of this. For instance, I used to go to all the big supermarkets where I live to go and get things like my tea and all my chocolate and things. And now I don't do that. I go to the bakery for my tea, and I go into our local Oxfam shop for my chocolate. And I wasn't doing that very much before, but now that's definitely prompted me to get more local, all of this.
Well, I prefer actually the local shops. Small aisles where nobody is overtaking you, huh? And
Yeah.
make sure nobody is. I put myself right in the middle, so I should just wait behind. And I know where everything is. And thankfully, the supermarkets at this moment in time that don't change things around. So I'm quickly in, I'm quickly out.
Yeah, I agree. That's been the same for me too.
What about, let's look at other aspects. What about, climate change has much to do with biodiversity loss, with extinction of species, because we expanding ourselves from mining to oil extraction to clearing land for animal farming, animal raising, cattle raising, Amazon forest. If Bolsonaro keeps on as he is at the moment, and if the Chinese all want to, as a symbol of wealth, want to eat meat like the Western countries, there will be nothing left of the Amazon forest.
Yeah.
I mean, that link is obviously there. What about, much has been talked about recently. I mean, it's known for years and years, but it hasn't been really in the mainstream media. In order to curb our carbon emission, we need to go on a plant-based diet. So that is a very big talking point at the moment, because it has been said for Europe, but it's true also for other countries and continents. The meat-based diet has slightly as much or more carbon emissions than all transportation together. So what do you think on that point?
I definitely think that it's good to switch what you eat and not consistently eat meat, say 4 days a week. It's not something I do. I have been managing to switch out for vegan substitutes for, let me think, I think I've been doing it for about a year and a half, 2 years now. So yeah, it's been something that's definitely been on my mind as a consumer. And I do realise meat does create a lot of carbon, and it's not only the carbon from just raising the animals on the farm; it's actually the carbon from transporting all the feed that they have as well. So it is it's a build-up.
Well, not only transporting the feed, or growing the feed.
Yeah, exactly.
So much soy is growing because that is one big part of the deforestation of the Amazon,
yes,
to make place for cattle feed.
And they graze, of course, don't they? They take their cows and they directly graze on the Amazon.
Well, they don't really graze. They're feeding them, just bringing everything in. It's not a happy free range land at all.
No, I have managed to see some of the images of these cows. Have you ever seen the genetically modified cows? Oh,
I think I have.
They're terrifying, aren't they? They're enormous creatures. They look like a bear. They're actually bigger than a bear. That's quite terrifying to think that a cow could be even bigger than a grizzly bear. Oh my goodness.
Well, people talk about flexitarian. Would you describe yourself as a flexitarian? Probably, right?
I would, yes.
I mean, that is a step certainly in the right direction. If science telling us we need to move more to a plant-based diet, that it's not possible to make that switch in a day or two. Even though some people have done like that, but it's a minority. So it's a gradual process. So flexitarian, I know quite a number of people that have become flexitarian. So instead of 5-6 days a week on any meat products, they have 2 days a week.
Yeah.
And actually, when I think back 50, 60 years, I grew up, it was then a small village where I come from. And we lived in rent above the landlord, and the landlord, they raised 2 pigs a year. And they slaughtered 1 or 2 pigs a year. And that was their meat. There was no going to the butcher. So meat was on the table in our family once a week on a Sunday as something special. Comparison to what is happening today, there is no comparison. And if you have your own animal which you kill, the butcher was coming and everybody was helping the whole family of processing that meat, and it was a full day's work. And that is certainly a very different scenario than slaughterhouses and, like you say, genetically modified cattle. And it's just the assembly line. And the carbon footprint, naturally, it will be multiple times greater. So what about aspect? There's another aspect to the link between COVID and climate. As we encroach on the natural world, and David Attenborough speaks about that and others speak about that, we're getting closer and closer to the animal kingdom. And as we're getting closer, encroaching on their space, they don't have any living space. So we have much, much more contact. And therefore, that is a reason for pandemics like COVID, coronavirus, to get in contact with the human species. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I definitely think that animal diseases and humans don't mix well. I mean, it's not always been proven that animals can have the same things as humans, but humans do definitely pick up animal diseases quite easily if the hygiene standards are not high enough. I mean, for instance, I used to be able to watch a lot of David Attenborough documentaries, and one of the last, it wasn't Blue Planet, but one of the last ones included, I remember, hyenas walking around in Africa in somewhere like Haiti, and actually they used to have to feed them to keep them away from all the humans. I don't know if you ever saw that, but they were taking things they're taking scraps from the butchers and actually chucking it out the back door just to stop them coming in. Because you can imagine what would happen if they came in and, you know, got hold of all that meat. There would be a lot of animal bacteria all over that meat. Not that there already isn't, where the natural bacteria from meat, but it would just multiply and it would just make things worse. So I definitely believe it's a problem. Animals encroaching and humans encroaching on animal land. It's vice versa, isn't it? It can't be helped both ways.
Animals don't encroach. We encroach on their space, and then they have to. There is contact.
That's true. But what I meant by that was, the thing is, we encroach so much that they have no choice but to come in and actually. What we dub encroach, you know, we call foxes pests for being in bins. But the thing is, they have to be a pest because we've come too far in on their territory.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you just mentioned David Attenborough, and you are a vivid viewer.
Yes.
What do you think? I mean, I have seen his speech at the Glastonbury Festival. I was very, very impressed. And he made such an impression on the crowd of young people who one would not think they would be impressed by that. What do you think of that?
I thought that was very good. And I've just recently seen he's gone on Instagram, which meant a lot to me. And I'm just going to say, it actually made me cry. I was so happy. I thought that must have been quite a jump for him, because he is not used to this at all. He's not used to social media. He's not used to going to places like Glastonbury. But no, the reaction has been, I actually didn't know how people would react, but it's been amazing, hasn't it? Absolutely amazing. And it's just made everything more personal, because a few years ago I actually wrote to him and he did reply. I wasn't expecting that at all, but I was so happy.
You wrote to him? Oh,
yeah.
What did he say? And what did you write?
I basically told him that I'd been admiring his work for many years, and that he taught me quite a lot. And my parents used to sit me down in front of these documentaries when I was months old. So it has been a whole lifetime, really. And I told him what I was doing. You know, I'd adopted a black rhinoceros, and that instead of giving people physical gifts for Christmas, which I've continued to do, and I will be doing this year, I've been donating to wildlife charities. And week after, what was it, my 19th birthday, the letter dropped through the letterbox, the reply.
So what did he say?
He said he was absolutely delighted to think that he'd inspired me to do so many interesting things. And I was just happy.
That is great.
Wonderful.
I mean, we're doing things from different sides. David Attenborough certainly does his bit, and he has a great influence on the older generation as well. And Greta does her bit on the younger generation. So are we moving in the right direction?
We might well be. I can't say for certain, because I'm not the person with all the statistics tools whose job it is to study things. But I believe if we listen to sensible advice, we listen to people like him, and we do not frighten each other with things, we empower each other. That's one of my new words I'd like to put out there: empower. is definitely something I think we could all do for each other, you know, positive, because the more negative you get, the more of a downward spiral you get into a very negative attitude. So you will never be able to do anything unless you start being positive with other people and with yourself.
That's a wonderful message, Alexandra. Positive, yes. Even though it appears like everything is so negative around us, but we have to, in ourselves, stay positive. But it doesn't mean we cannot call out what our politicians are lagging behind.
Oh no, yeah, there is a way of definitely calling them out, but you know, it's the aim is with people not to make them feel as though they're being attacked, you know, because that immediately makes people put their guard up and they go, right, okay, I'm not listening to other people, you're attacking me.
So I think we're coming close to the end of our time. Zoom will also switch off after, I don't know, 20, 40 minutes of free chat. What are your plans for your personal actions in this regard?
With that, well, with climate, it's definitely made me think about my career a lot more, and I have chosen to go into sustainability. So at the moment I'm working with my local Oxfam shop, learning all their principles, learning what happens in basically a charity that operates a zero, kind of like a circular economy system, not quite a zero waste, but they're very good actually. They have their own system devised called Waste Savers, by where they send off garments and scrap fabrics, and they're very carefully sorted through, and they can be donations or, you know, of pretty much anything. And they will take things like odd shoes as well, for instance, for their work. But what happens is when they take all the accessories and the odd shoes, it goes to a plant, it gets sorted through, and if anything's too soiled, it goes to an incinerator, which powers 400 homes. And the rest of the items, if they can be repaired, they are cleaned, and that includes all the bags and accessories, and they are resold. And the odd shoes go to farmers in Africa who need them when they harvest crops, and it stops them stepping on anything sharp, which is wonderful.
That sounds wonderful.
Yeah, it's great.
I mean, as a last question, can you say something about how your advertisement campaign is going? Has there been any move in the meantime? Did you have the time in the lockdown to focus on that?
I did, yes, and I'm very happy to say that I've had one of the 6 founders of Parents from the Future approach me and say, we want to do the same thing. Can we do this together? So she wants to help me make it, which is fantastic.
Well, it looks all positive, and you are so positive also. I mean, that is beautiful. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure of talking with you, and we'll be talking to many more people on those lines, and fantastic. I wish you all the best, Alexandra, with your project and with your sustainability on a personal level and so forth.
Oh,
so
thank
you very much for talking to us today. Bye-bye.
Bye.